James, PJ Mustipher in year 4, how far has he come, and how are you pleased with him through 2 weeks?
Yeah, I know I say this about a lot of guys, but I actually had a meeting with his dad on Zoom. Maybe it was Monday at 6:40 in the morning. They've done an unbelievable job raising PJ. You know, their one son was a captain at Notre Dame and is now a starting center for the Chicago Bears. Dad played at West Virginia. Mom went to West Virginia. He gets it. You know, he went to a great high school that prepared him as well, and Coach Soule, who I coached at the University of Maryland. He just literally, I use him, the players get sick of hearing about it because I use him as an example all the time. You know, he's 327 pounds. He dominated the conditioning test, could have probably passed it with the linebackers. I think his wrestling background has been huge for him. His mental and physical toughness is phenomenal. He's got a great motor. He understands leverage. I love him. I love him. I'm a huge fan of PJ's. You know, we took him to media day. He was awesome with my family. He always is. Represents the program so well. Makes plays on Saturday, not at the expense of his role. You know, there's some guys sometimes that to make a play, they go outside of the framework of the defense. PJ doesn't do that. He's going to hold his gap. He's going to do his responsibility, and that's when you have a chance to be pretty good. But he's literally the example I use all the time. I just said it, I think, yesterday after practice. You know, almost every day, Brisker and PJ Mustipher are like the two first guys out on the field. They're not just out here, like they got a plan every day of what they're working on. So I love them. You know, I love them. I'm trying to figure out, you guys have heard me say this before, I'm trying to figure out how to get mom and dad to maybe have a few more, send them on one of them romantic vacations that I used to see the commercials, Mount Airy Lodge in the Poconos with the heart-shaped beds and the champagne hot tubs. You guys know what I'm talking about. Everybody's quiet looking at me like I'm a weirdo, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, the Poconos, exactly. My coach at East Stroudsburg used to always say, hey, this is a $500 day in the Poconos. People paid big money to come here, and you're here for free. Like, we used to hear that all the day in training camp, and the gnats were in our eyes, and that's when we did 3-a-days the entire camp, which I still don't know if it was legal at that time.
James, can you share any of the backstory on how this series came to be? Because it's kind of unique playing an SEC Big Ten series in a regular season.
Our administration wanted to play Auburn.
And so you reached out to them, and who reached out to who?
No, I don't necessarily feel like that. You're constantly getting people that reach out about games. We get probably emails or contacted, probably weekly. And some make sense and some don't. But this obviously was set a while back, and it's interesting because you have all the discussions about strength of schedule, and the Big Ten already plays 9 conference games. For a while there, we didn't play any 1AA opponents because the model was supposedly strength of schedule to position our teams and our conference best for the playoffs, and that was a decision that was made, and obviously it's an exciting game, and the fans are excited about it, and those types of things. It's a great opportunity for us. We've embraced it, and we've practiced extremely well. I was surprised. I think I saw something. There's only been like 3 games, I think, maybe ever. I read it somewhere between the Big Ten and the SEC in the regular season like that.
Ranked opponents.
Yeah, was it ranked opponents? Is that what it was? Something like that. So obviously it hasn't happened very often for some reason or another.
Hey James, your name's comes up every year for jobs. Is there any reason you just don't go, hey, listen, I'm not interested in staying?
I have. But I've also found and tracked this over time that really no matter what you say, people aren't happy with. So I've decided that I'm going to handle this internally and talk to our team. It happens every single year. I'm not worried about distractions in the media and with the fans. I'm worried about my team. So I talked to my staff about it. I talked to the players about it, the leadership council in detail. But, I think that's the best approach.
What do you tell recruits about it? Because obviously you've got a big weekend coming up.
Yeah, we'll address it with the recruits as well. So my conversations with the recruits and my conversations with my team, we'll have, and then I know you'll call every one of them to ask what I said. But yeah, I'll have conversations with them. But again, having conversations with the media and having conversations with anybody else, I'm concerned about my team and my future team.
To what extent do you think misinformation?
And when I say my future team, I'm talking about the recruits.
To what extent do you think misinformation is part of the cycle?
A big part of it. I'd love to talk about Auburn. That's the third question we've had about it. I'd love to talk about Auburn. I think there's a lot of misinformation. The problem, in my opinion, with today's media and social media, I don't mean this as an attack on anybody here, is everybody wants to be the first to say things so they can get credit.
I got an Auburn question for you.
Thank you.
How hard is it in a team sport for one individual to take over a game?
I'm sorry, what's one more time?
How hard is it in a team sport like football for one individual to take over a game?
I think it really depends, to your point, on the team sport. If it's basketball and you're talking about 5 guys, 1 out of 5 is a significant number. Football, you're so much more dependent because, like, even in basketball, depending if you're playing man coverage or whatever, you can kind of spread everybody out and make it a one-on-one game. We try to do similar things in football, but that can be challenging. But yeah, there's been guys that have had significant impacts, but I think it's more challenging in the game of football because you're so dependent on your teammates. If you're a running back, you're dependent on the O-line. If you're an O-lineman, you're dependent on the quarterback getting it out on time. The receivers, getting open in their routes, the receivers being dependent on the quarterback throwing it, so on and so forth. The linebackers being dependent on the defensive line to do their job. You're just so dependent in the game of football.
How are you preparing for Auburn, considering they have basically a brand new coaching, all-around brand new coaching staff? How are you using
Yeah, that's a challenge. They've blown out the first 2 opponents, so you don't have a lot of legitimate game tape from this year. You got a new head coach, you got a new offensive coordinator, you got a new defensive coordinator, and not having 2 games to really be able to kind of figure it out. Like, you watch the Wisconsin game, you learn a lot about Penn State football. We don't really have that from them, so it's challenging. You're looking at film from Auburn, you're looking at film from South Carolina, you're looking at film from Boise, you're looking at film from really kind of all over the place to try to figure out who and what they're going to be, and that's why early season games can be challenging.
James, Adam was here this weekend as honorary captain. What does it mean for your team to have him here? What's your relationship like with him?
Yeah, any of you guys, especially the guys like Mike, have been around a long time. Adam is an awesome guy. Obviously, was a highly recruited kid coming here. Was very well thought of while he was here. Then the injury happened. This community rallies behind all of our players, and then to see Adam battle through this and then be able to walk back and then going to law school and getting his law degree and being on the board at Penn State, and is involved in politics now. He's just an awesome guy. He's come and talked to our team before. I think he's a great example of perseverance and positive attitude. I'm a big fan of his, so it's great to have him back. He's come back a number of times. I'd like to get him back more involved at Penn State. I think he's a voice that needs to be heard, and he's just been a phenomenal representation of our university for a long time.
James, how much are nerves a factor in a game like this at this level, and can you compare it to maybe the NFL?
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, nerves are natural. I think it's really how you view it, like anything else in life, right? If you look at the feelings that you have, the nerves, you can describe it as nerves. You can look at it as butterflies or that sensation that you're having. You can look at it as nerves, or you can look at it as my body pumping adrenaline into my system to get me ready for an adverse, challenging situation. It's just my body priming itself to get ready. And I think looking at it that way are 2 very different, distinct ways of looking at it that I think really impact, I think, your approach and how successful and how you can use that energy, in a positive way. So I think a lot of it's just how you look at it. I think, I'm a big believer that in college, in high school, the NFL, the more you invest, the more you prepare, the more confident you become because you know what you've done to get ready for the game. And I think when the confidence is coupled with that energy that's priming you to get ready, whether you're looking at it as nervous energy or whatever, I think is a recipe for success. Obviously, the longer you play, the more games you play, the more venues you play in, the more experience you have, you lose a little bit of that because you just have done it so many times. And again, depending on how you look at that and how you use it, it could be a positive. You're going to get less of that. If you've been in the NFL for 12 years, it's going to be very different than a rookie, obviously, and how your body reacts to that. And now you hope the experience outweighs your body priming you. You just become a vet in so many ways to know what you have to do to be ready to play at a high level.
Last question.
I hope that answers your question.
James, you had a chance to distribute a lot of snaps on Saturday. A few days later, did you feel like any freshman or second-year players or maybe third-year players took a step forward on the field for you?
Yeah, I apologize, Tyler. I probably would have been better prepared to answer that question on.
You're on to Auburn, aren't you?
Yeah. So I have all my notes, and I'm kind of thinking in that way. When is that? When Tuesday? When did we have the press conference?
Yesterday, yeah.
Oh, was it yesterday? Geez, it seems like 3 days ago. Sorry. I apologize. I don't know. Tyler, I can get back to you on that, but I literally, as you guys know, these are long days and they kind of all run together. That seems like an eternity ago that we played Ball State, to be honest with you. But nobody significantly jumps out right now. But it was, I think, really valuable for us. Obviously, the one that you guys always ask about is the quarterback position. So, getting the quarterback in there and him throwing a touchdown was great. Chris told me there was some critiques about we should have got him in earlier. I get it. We planned on get him in earlier. It's hard to know. That if you get a 3 and out, he would have got in a lot earlier. They sustain a drive because your backups are in there and they got still a bunch of their starters in there. We would have liked to get him more time, but that's probably the one that jumps out just because of the position, and I know you guys have asked me that a ton of times.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.